Let's talk about space. Space is a really fun element of the art, and it's basically how you can show distance and talk about distance in an artwork. So the actual definition is the distance between, around, above, or below things. Space in a two-dimensional drawing or painting refers to the arrangement of objects on the picture plane. So it's how you arrange what you're drawing. A two-dimensional piece of art has height and width, but no depth. And the illusion of depth can be achieved by using perspective. Now, there's two other words that we could talk about with space, and that's called positive space and negative space. Positive space is the subject or the objects in the work of art, not the space around them. Negative space is the space around the objects. So let's talk about different ways that we can show distance and space. The first one is overlapping. When an artist places one object over another object, it looks like one is closer. So let's look at these objects right here. Which of these objects is closer, and how can you tell? So let's look for just a moment. Which of these is closer and how can you tell? Well, I hope you picked the sphere. The sphere is a closer one, and the reason I know it is because it is blocking the cylinders and the cube on here. So it is in front because it is blocking them. So that is overlapping. Then the next one's called relative size. The farther away something is, the smaller it is, and the closer it is, the bigger it is. So how do the trees in this picture show relative size? How do the trees show relative size? Well, the tree in the front is bigger, and the tree farther away is a lot smaller. You can also see that with the sidewalk, that this one is a big piece of sidewalk and this one's really tiny. And even on the lines on the road, it's bigger and it gets smaller. The things that are closer are bigger, the things that are farther away are smaller. Then these show atmospheric perspective. Atmospheric perspective is the things that are farther away seem lighter and blurrier than the closer objects. So which of these show atmospheric perspective correctly? Which of these four pictures show it correctly? And there could be more than one. Oh, I hope you chose this shape here and this one here. And that's because the ones that are farther away, they're lighter and tiny bit blurrier. Now, picture a mountain range. When you're driving up, the mountains look kind of blue and fuzzy and far away. But up close, they're really bright and vibrant. That's atmospheric perspective. Then there's position. Placing an object higher on the page makes it appear farther back than the object placed lower on the page. So I want you to draw a tree in this box that appears close. Where would you draw that tree? Would you draw it all the way at the top? Would you draw it on top of this horizon line? Would you draw it at the bottom? Where would you draw a tree to make it look like it is close? Oh, I hope you drew it at the bottom. So I would make my tree way down here. If I wanted to look really far away in the background, I would draw it way up here, and I would draw it smaller too. All right, let's keep going. Then there's also the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. So the foreground are the objects that are near you. It's the near space. The objects are larger. The middle ground is not too close and not too far, and it's kind of in the middle. That's where it gets its name. And the background is the far away objects, and they're smaller. So I want you to draw a tree for me in the foreground, the middle ground, and background. And then think about the other stuff. Where would you draw it? How big would you make it? Would it be blurrier? Think about that relative size and the atmospheric perspective. All right, in my foreground, I would draw my tree way up close, nice and big at the bottom of my paper. The middle ground would be a little bit farther away. And the background would be even farther away. Now, I can't make this tool get blurry, but this one would be a blurrier tree because it's farther away. But then let's talk about linear perspective. This is another way to show the illusion of depth, to help something look like it's three-dimensional. There is the horizon line. The horizon line separates the sky from the land. Anything above it is sky, anything below it is land. We also call it the eye level. So eye level, if you're standing in a crater and you're looking up, your eye level will be higher up. So if you were to draw a picture, your horizon line would be higher on your paper. If you were on top of a mountain looking down, the horizon line would look really low on your piece of paper. Then there's this thing called a vanishing point. A vanishing point is a dot where things vanish in space. So if I was to draw a dot, I would draw it on my horizon line and it'd probably be right around there. All of these lines point to my vanishing point, and that's how I know where it's located. Every single one of these lines points to it. And these lines that all point to it, they're all called orthogonal lines. Orthogonal lines make objects look smaller. So we know that this road does not actually go to a point. We know these buildings don't get really tiny. It's the illusion of space. Now, if you want to learn more about it, on the next 2 pages, there's 1-point perspective, and there's a video to show you how to do 1-point perspective using a horizon line, one vanishing point, that's why it's called 1-point perspective, and orthogonal lines. And then on the next one is 2-point perspective, so that uses a horizon line, 2 vanishing points, that's where it gets that name, and orthogonal lines. So I have separate videos to help show you how to do them and for you to practice on those papers. I hope you have fun playing with the illusion of space and creating distance in your artwork.